go in this interview. So it's been a long time since I've done a reaction video. This is long, and it may get to the point where I'm like, oh my God, we've had too much of this woman. I've only watched half of it, but half of it is more than enough to get enough data. So there's going to be some new stuff that I'm reacting to genuinely, but I watched half of it and I'm like, dear sweet Lord, I didn't need to watch anymore. There was nothing that was going to redeem what I saw. So we're going to watch this. I have no idea who Dick Shue is. And I probably need some Tylenol Americans to do some research on Dick Shue, because typically when people give fluff interviews, they're playing for the same team with Dick Shue. So Dick Shue and Jenny they're on the same team. You can tell it's not a hostile interview. This is a softball. They give a lot of signals to each other of, hey, we're on the same team. Hey, this is a friendly interview. This is not at all a hostile interview or something that's a real interview that we're asking hard questions. It's not Joe Rogan, right? This is like a, hey, come on here and we're going to softball you.
Oh, a little more than that. Well, let me start by asking you, because everybody is slightly different, why you went to law school in the first place.
Okay, this is very important. This is a coded message. She's asking, why did you go to law school? The way that they answer puts them in the pro-DEI or anti-DEI camp, right? Listen to her answer and listen to what motivates her. Once again, I want to be very clear. I am very against racism. I am very against anything legitimate. I think if there's a legitimate claim, bring it to court, right? Bring it to court, lock the people up. Lock the people up if it's a crime, right? If it's a criminal act, go to the police, go to law enforcement. By the way, not the university, because the university honor code system is a kangaroo court. They can convict you of stuff with like almost no due process. You're not allowed a real lawyer. It's just like people's feelings. It's a bunch of kids judging you. Like, it's kangaroo court. Kangaroo court. Go to a real court and file a complaint. So I have severe suspicions when people are like, well, we talked to the university. Well, the university is on your side to begin with.
Well, I started the way many Asian American kids do in college, studying a handful of sciences. So I started in cellular molecular biology, and then I moved to have a concentration in computer science. And somewhere along the way, I got involved with our Asian American activist organization at the university.
Stop there. What did she just say? Our Asian American activist organization. So she called it an activist organization. That's a virtue signal, because these things are not necessarily activists. Once again, I had I'll tell the story. I had a very close friend in Korea, very near and dear to me. She's an extremely intelligent woman. She's extremely capable. She's pretty based, right? Head of her sorority, head of the Asian American Society, but they just did cultural events and parties and did cool stuff and fun stuff about Asian culture. I live in Asia, right? I love Asia, right? I love all that stuff. That's all great, right? But she slipped in the word there, activist, right? That is not a mistake. Let me tell you right now, guys, that is intentional. That is very, 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 very intentional.
University of Michigan. It was called the University of Michigan Asian Student Coalition. And it was my work with that group that actually ended up getting me over to law school. Because what happened was we had a dispute.
So her activism got her into law school. So she came in as an activist. Once again, there's nothing wrong with defending against legal stuff. But once again, that's a job for law enforcement, right? Report that to law enforcement. You should not be once again, report it, giving over any evidence, right? Law enforcement. Is it a crime? Right? Someone said they practiced the podcast. It's possible they submitted questions ahead of time.
University. There was an event at a fraternity where a group of our cohort went, and they experienced some racial slurs at the frat. And our group engaged.
So they said she doesn't say what racial slur. She doesn't say what the frat was. And once again, let me remind you guys, I said this earlier, but let me say it again. One of the big things about Stop Asian Hate was they stopped that movement after people looked into the statistics. So who was it? What was it? What was said specifically, right? Now, let me be really clear. Real racism does exist. People do say racist things, right? But what exactly was it? What was the context, right? Maybe it was real, but the point is she's leading with it. It's very, very, very sus.
Hmm.
And so they organized a mediation between our group and the fraternity. And I remember sitting in that mediation and thinking to myself, I'm getting rings run around me at this moment. And
this is very non-specific. So she's giving, so this story is like some victim story that you'd make up in like a victim book where you're just making up a victim story, because she's not giving out specifics. She's not saying anybody's name. She's not saying who. She's not saying what. She's just saying, I felt like I had rings around me. She's talking about feelings. What do we focus on in the law? Facts over feelings. What are the facts here? I'm not hearing many facts. This is a very, once again, you have to pick these people apart. You have to pick up their lingo. You have to pick up what they do, right? It even looks like she's reading off of a script. If you look at her eyes, she looks like she's reading off a script, right? He also kind of looks like he's reading off a script as well, right? They're not looking at each other. Like, it looks like they're not looking at each other. Maybe it's just because it's like the Zoom call look, it looks like it's like a really cheap Zoom call. Maybe that's it. But it almost looks like she's got like a victim script that she's reading off of.
And I don't like that feeling, and this isn't going to happen again. And right after that, I ended up chucking the science and signing up for law school.
Was that a hard decision, or not too hard?
Not that hard.
And what did you think of law school when you got there? Did you like it a lot, or were you
at the risk of sounding like a complete tool, I loved law school.
That's okay. There are people who love law school. I think that
I don't even.
No, there aren't. Now he's lying. Who loves law school? What are you talking about?
I think
not
kids
okay.
Today know what it means when you say I was a complete tool. I was not a complete tool, but I loved law school.
Well,
actually.
So how did you kind of migrate? I mean, obviously you went to law school. I assume you didn't know exactly what kind of lawyer you wanted to be. You somehow migrated into the world of intellectual property. Tell me a little about how that happened.
Well, my first job was actually at a large litigation shop.
What? Stop right there. This is a big tell. This is a huge one. And this is one of the biggest problems, is that your first job as a lawyer defines you. My first job as a lawyer, like as a real lawyer, not for summer, not for everything else, right? But as a lawyer, was with helping big corporations like Universal Studios and doing property and real estate. And that affected the way I think about things, because in property, real estate, and with big business, you work on win-win scenarios, right? You generate win-win scenarios, generate money. I care about money and making things profitable. I'm a transactional attorney. That's what I grew up as. That's what I grew up as, from a baby lawyer to a big lawyer, right? And then I went in-house, worked with big corporations, did regulation, did compliance, did a lot of other stuff. When you start as a litigator, right? Litigation, right? It sets you in a way where your mind thinks litigate. That is the last person you want at the head of your company. Every company I worked for that was sane. Universal was sane. Their general counsel was fine. They're kind of based, actually. Kind of a Chad. But that's at least the one I dealt with back in the day. I don't know if they changed now. But point of the matter is, they care about money first. They don't care about litigation. They want to avoid litigation. This person, because she's from a litigation shop, that means they focus on litigation, not a full stack law firm. My law firm did a bunch of things. They did bankruptcy, they did property, they did litigation, they did also, they would do your divorce if you wanted to. They did a lot of stuff, right? That's kind of what we call full service, right? She was focused on litigation. That puts a specific mindset and makes you litigation crazy. That's the problem here. That's a big problem here. Let's go.
A lot of insurance was involved because it was a product liability case that had gone on for years. And of course, the damage that had been done had continued over several decades. And so many insurance policies responded, or arguably responded, to the incident. So I spent a good chunk of my time doing complex litigation, which really does, in the big firms, having an experience like that teaches you the mechanics. Gives you a really good foundation for the exercise of law. And of course, it's only litigation, and there's many kinds of law, but it does teach you the rigor, and it does teach you it gives you the technical skill base. So after that, after being at Heller for about 4.5 years or so, intellectual property was hot and interesting. And if you've done a fraud or contracts case, it feels very useful.
Okay. So she's into intellectual property litigation, right? Litigation. So part of what she's doing that really worries me, but she's setting herself up as I am a litigator who will sue people. What this does, what she's saying to the people out there, the DI, ESG people, is to waste money of the company. So what she's signaling is I am going to drain these companies' money, because all the litigation does is drain the company's money. And that's what DEI and ESG is really set up to do. It's not set up to help the company. It's actually set up to kill the company. It's like a poison pill. They plant it inside the company to kill a productive American company. When you want to kill a productive American company, a beloved company, a company like Disney that Walt raised, Walt will be ashamed of what happened today with the Disney company. You put DEI and ESG in it. You add DEI and ESG, and it, without fail, kills the company. Once again, the company doesn't die because they get a lot of injection of capital. There's a lot of mysterious money that comes into them. For example, government money. Remember during COVID, a lot of money came in mysteriously. They got all these capital injections. That's the only way they stay up. Without that, they would be gone, because DEI killed the productivity of those companies and they killed their business model, right? But now we're on a turn where companies no longer have those cash injections, where DEI is being exposed. Shout out to Kirsha. She's done the Lord's work on this. And she's also talked about how they're trying to convert it to Bridge, and we can't let it be converted to something else or let the name change. Kirsha's done a great job on that.
But at the same time, not particularly keyed into the times or the environment. And at that time, patent litigation was hot. Into what we used to call at the time soft intellectual property, copyrights and trademarks were just fun and interesting because they really involved people's creativity. So I came to Townsend, as you probably know, in 1996 and started working right away on mainly soft IP cases to begin with. I developed a preliminary injunction practice.
A preliminary injunction practice. This means she got used to quickly shutting people down. That's exactly the type of thing you'd file against the modding community or anybody else. So she pretty much perfected to stop the little guy, to stop people right away with IP, et cetera. Now, once again, sometimes these things are important, but I'm very concerned that this is the methods that she's looking at, because how many people have gotten a cease and desist, have gotten an injunction, have gotten some sort of court order out of nowhere, right? For what? Right? With no due process, et cetera, right? Very concerning, very concerning. But she talks about guarding creativity with preliminary injunctions. That's not what you're talking about. We're talking about is killing creativity, because the real creativity are the people you're shutting down, like Pow World, like the modders. That's the real creativity. Your creativity is dead at the Pokemon Company International, Kabushiki Gaisha Pokemon, right? You killed it. Officer Jenny killed it. People like Officer Jenny around the world are killing creativity. They hate creativity. They hate fun. They hate fans. They hate you, right? We can't let the people that hate win, right? We are the lovers. We're the people that love Pokemon. We care about Pokemon. And we got to say Pokemon. We got to say Pikachu. Pikachu's in trouble right now, guys. Pikachu's in deep trouble, right? Like Giovanni's got him, but we can say Pikachu. We can say Pikachu. We can redeem Pikachu. We can do it. We got to do it right. We got to go to the Japanese, the base Japanese, because they'll listen to us. There's some people out there. I guarantee you, there are some based Chads in Japan that'll be like, what the fuck are you doing? Like to Officer Jenny over here. And they will correct her, right? If she tries to mouth off to some of these Japanese people, I'm telling you right now, they're not going to take this Karening from this boba liberal who's trying to push DEI. They will not take that. I have many people I know in Japan, and so I know some people that they know people in Japan. That's cool. I know people in Japan as well, right? Once again, I've been in there many, many times. I love Japan. I love the country. They're still very, very, very old school in the way they do things, right? In their style. And once again, it's their culture. How can we say we're better than that? And that's the horrible thing about DEI. DEI says they're better than Japan. DEI thinks the DEI way is better than the Japanese way. You don't get to say that. You're a Japanese company. Follow an order, follow a hierarchy, stand in line, right? And once again, these people all talk, they act tough about, oh, I love culture, oh, I love this and that. He wouldn't make it a day. Officer Jenny wouldn't make it a day a day in a Japanese company, a Korean company, or a Chinese company. I know I know many female lawyers over here, right? I'm familiar with them. They don't act like Officer Jenny. She would not cut it in Asia at all, period. I can tell you that right now, as someone in Asia, right?
We were the plaintiff on our IP infringement cases, on the small ones, kind of what we would call the anti-piracy cases.
Mhm.
But these were large
Mhm,
copyright cases,
mhm.
and they were.
So she gets excited about large copyright cases. She's loves them. She is litigation hungry for large copyright cases.
One of them was still ongoing when I went in-house. So I had a soft transition. I was running the litigation, only running it from inside the company as opposed to from the law firm. So that was.
So this is the point. She had no transactional experience. This woman is unqualified for her job. I'm gonna tell you right now, as a person who's worked in it, she's unqualified for her job. Let me say this the third time. She's unqualified for her job. Whoever hired this woman should be looked into. Japanese companies are looking at this. Who hired this woman? Why did they hire somebody who's unqualified? A general counsel should have transactional experience. If they do not, they're unqualified for the job.
I just started moving into more and more areas. Then in 2005, we were preparing to launch the PlayStation Network, which of course is gigantic today, but at that time we were putting together the legal framework for that. So I got tasked with that, and that really was an opportunity to conduct interdisciplinary examinations and to understand how the entire business fit together, because the company had never been a retailer before. And that was its first foray.
When you took that job at Sony, you'd obviously end up spending a lot of time there. Did you have an idea of how long you were going to stay there? Did you think you would stay as long as you did, or what was your plan?
No. Prior to that, my stints, I'd been 4 years at Heller and then 4 years at Townsend. And I think the first time I looked up and looked at the calendar at Sony, I was 10 years in, and I was like, oh, whoops.
Those 10 years were some of the worst 10 years at Sony, and they were the 10 years where DEI came in. Just saying, just a little comment there.
How was it working for a Japanese company being in America? I mean, obviously, was that a cultural challenge? Was that something you were used to? Tell me a little bit about that.
Not at all at Sony. For a Japanese company, they're quite forward thinking. And
are they though? Or is that the agenda you pushed on them?
That part was not an adjustment at all. And no issues. They're an extremely respectful company. They've been, they've had American CEOs in their subsidiaries, American and British and Welsh. So they're very used to having American leadership.
What about the gaming industry? You sound like you obviously work with them as a client. You knew something about it, but obviously you had to get a lot deeper into that space. Is that something you really enjoy? Do you like playing games yourself? I mean, tell me a little about that.
I do, although I grew up, so the 3D game console generation came when I was just out of law school. So I didn't have a lot of time to console game, but I grew up playing arcade games.
Fake gamer. It's fake gamer. We need, once again, this is a problem. She doesn't play games. She hates games. She hates games. I played arcade game. What the fuck is that? She doesn't even play games. Fake gamer, doesn't know anything about the actual product. If you are brought into if you're brought in a company, this makes me mad. If you're brought in a company, you should know about the product. At least know about the product. Knows nothing about the product. It's a complete joke. This is a joke. This is a joke. You need someone who loves Pokemon, who knows Pokemon, who lives, sleeps, breathes, eats Pokemon, right? Nobody buys that. This is once again travesty.